Well, this is Baruch coming to you for the Tikkun Elevator call out here in beautiful Boca Raton, Florida. Let's review. The main issue that we're dealing with is to bring the Aleph represents or. Or begins with letter Aleph, so this is abbreviation of the beginning words. But the light of the Ein Sof is a light that has no bounds. So that if something physical, like a human being, should be in intimate contact with that light, the pure light would cease to exist because there is no physical existence in that light. So in order for the light to become transmitted to us, it has to be wrapped. What the wrapping does is it minimizes and physicalizes the light itself a little bit. So there are 4 different stages of wrapping this light. The light is wrapped in mochi. That's what the mem stands for. Slomim, which to understand the RASHASH, you have to have an idea what slomim are. Slomim is the side of the tzelem, the lam of the tzelem. It's 1 panimi and 2 oros makifi. That also surrounds the mochi. Then those slomim are wrapped in a lavush, and ultimately they become a kli. Now this important point for understanding of the RASHASH, because the concept of wrapping one element of light inside of another is really part of creation. He's saying that the human being, Adam and Chava, are an ultimate creation on the other side of the concept of the kli, with the ultimate kli, but inside of us, but buried inside of many wraps of clothing. And that's what we say here, are this Aleph, which refers to the Oros. So let's just a little review on that. And let's go over here to where our real topic is for today. And our topic is the Birchos HaTefillin. And yesterday we learned about the Tefillin. We learned really about the light within the nook and how a certain aspect of it goes into Bria. That's the lowest part of the highest sphera of the nook. Goes into Bria, that's what we said. And the other 9 spheros of the nook have to be added onto her. There's a mixture here with Leah. When Leah has to grow at nighttime, we're talking about at night now, the whole length of Zeranpin. Along the back is Rachel, that part here, that part where we're looking for a Tosefta, a 9 spheros, but the one aspect of the top sphera is missing. That's the malchus of that sphera, and he goes through what happens to that light, the remnant of the light, how it is that the nook joins with Zer Anpin at his heart. We have the transfer of the idea of the tefillin into the tefillin of the arm. So here, though, we have a Hakdama L'Kavanos of Tefillin. And it's another place where I'm hoping that as we get into the RASHASH more, that we will be able to understand what I'm about to read. There's a lot missing, but remember that he has a pictorial form, and that pictorial form tells you what he's really talking about, because what we're looking at a lot of times is the what would you call it, is the cookbook, so to speak, is the menu, or what the different ingredients that go into making something more physical. So he says, now let's talk about the kavanos of the tefillin shel yad, the tefillin shel rosh. He says, if you really want to understand this, you have to go to the Shara Kavanos and Drashi tefillin of a sefer, I'm not sure, or a tom of a sefer NAHAR SHALOM. So let's see, I was thinking it was Orim Betumim, I'm not sure, there's lots of names it could be. But these are places he said, and this is the limit of my knowledge over here, really. Trying to find it, actually. So he said, mitzvahs tefillin, the mitzvah tefillin, the bekosehem, hey mitzvah saseh shazman grom. So this is important that we keep seeing this idea. I don't have a good drawing of it right now. I have to really spend time to try to find the drawings. There's a sefer called Lakudas HaKesef. I have it in 5 volumes. There's many, many drawings in it, and I'll try to work on it. So to try to explain this idea. So he says this, Obirko Sehem, Hein mitzvahs aseh zman grama, shehi b'chagat dechagat v'chagat denai. So if we're talking about the Chagat denai, we're talking about, first of all, Chagat, there's a parts of called Chagat, and there's a parts of called Nai. Each one of those partsufim will have a Chabad Chagat Nai. They will have the complete set of mochim called Chagat, Chabad, Chochma Bin Das, Chagat Chesed Gevurah Teferes, and that's a Chod Yisod. These mochim. Okay, remember we mentioned mochim when we have our little drawing over there. Then the mochim, though, are the middle mochim, because it is a Chabad at the top, a Chagat, a Chesed starting with Chesed in the middle, and a Nai, which is a Netzach, at the bottom. So here we're dealing with the Chagat, the Chagat, and the Chagat, the Nai. So it's the middle parts of the Chagat, the middle part of the parts of Nai. Where are they coming from? The Chub de Zah. So they're coming from the Chochma and the Bina of Zah, and they're going into this Chagat area. So he said the Atzilus, in the world of Atzilus, remember Atzilus is very transparent in terms of physicality, but it is a template for what will be more physical. The Kavana, the Zivug Partsufim, Ha'ulyanim, the Atzilus of the Kavana is we're trying to work on the top Partsufim of the Olam, Ha'ulyanim of Atzilus. And then from that place, L'chamshech Mechem Salme HaMochim. So remember, we have the concept of cold Salma. Let me whip this. I can whip it out. Where is it? So now he's mentioning here's cold Salma, and he has the tzaddik. These are the mochin, and they're wrapped in this tzaddik tzalim. Now, just don't try to think through it too much. That's just the facts, folks. Just the facts. So he said, "V'lacham shech mechem tzal mehamochim," that with its tzlamim for the chochma and bebina hanaz dezer anpin da atzilus. In other words, they cover over the mochim of chochma and bina in the zah of atzilus. Again, atzilus is the ultimate template for all creation. For what's creation, what happens there is happening here, not happened, happening. Creation is constantly going on. Now, that I'm happy about my reading there. I have some understanding of it. So, bebracha nimshach the lamed mem the tzalim. Now, remember we talked about the tzalim again. What it is, the tzalim is, well, I guess you would say 2 basic parts. There's a panimi, an ore that goes into Zeranpin, and there is a lam and mem, which are the makifim, which are too powerful and can't go into Zeranpin at all. So he said the tzalim. So he said so he bebirchas bebracha nimshach alam mem the tzalim. V'ayidecha ma'maisa shel hamitzvos nimshach hatzadik the tzalim bepinimius hazah. Now, going back over, I should have actually really probably a little drawing about the word tzalim, but the tzalim is right here written. There's a lamed and there's a mem to there's the last 2 letters of the word tzalim, as there's a tzaddik tzalim. So when you see the word tzalim elokem, this is what it's referring to. This is the secret. So he says, bebracha. So he bebracha nimshach the lamed mem the tzalim. And then that's in the bracha. You say the bracha, and it brings down the makifim of the tzalim. Now again, the tzalim cover over the mochim. So this is a layer, he says. Then when you actually do the mitzvah of putting on the tefillin, you have a hamshacha of the tzaddik the tzalim, Bipinimius of Zer Anpin into the inside of Zer Anpin. So v'chavagam ayidei tefillin shel yad yakave. Now this is where it gets harder for me. The hafrib hakali, to separate the kali, parts of nai, which are, he says that the nai, I think there's a parts of called nai. So you see where the nai actually is located. It should be really, I think, tani. In other words, it's part of Tiferes also. But when he says, in other words, the lower part of Tiferes, for the cause of the Mata. But it's not the whole Tiferes. So the nai includes that. So he says, what is the nai actually? It's composed of Zun and Yaakov Rachel. Zun. Zun would be, I guess, the top part. And the Yaakov Rachel is from the cause of the Mata of Zun. The Chitzonius, the Bria, to the mace, outside part of Bria. So he's saying like this, I think. He says, let's take the outside of Bria. Turns out that the outside of Bria has a Chitzonius and a Panemius. So if you take the first one, so the Chitzonius has a Chitzonius and a Panemius. Now let's look at the Chitzonius and the Panemius, which are also part of the Chitzonius. And you'll see that between them, there's a Chitzonius and the Chitzonius and a Panemius in the Chitzonius. So you could just keep breaking that down. But that's what he talks about. The Chitzonius, the Chonis, the Bri. Now, why the Chitzonius? Because that's what rubs up against Zer Anpin. So anything that's coming from Zer Anpin is going to another parts of, is going to run into the Chitzonius of that parts of. But here he's calling the parts of the Zun, which means both of them together. The Chitzonius, the Bria. So we're going to go into Bria, but first we're going to get the outside part of Bria. That's what he seems to say. V'ram mechitzonius, the Chitzonius, the Chabad of Chagat. So also, this is counting. You have to count here because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 here, and I'll try to read it to a period, and then we'll come back. I have to work on it. Is the Chitzonius Chabad Chagat, which are shehem the I think Chabad Chagat means they are Arich V'nuk, Eric Anpin V'nuk, Abba V'ima V'Yisrael Sava Tavuna. Now the Yitzira, so it is all the partsufim of Yitzira. Now this is a little bit outside of my knowledge base, but I have learned about this. So he says that let's read it again. The says v'gam ayidei tefillin shel yad yikaven lahafrek hakela b'pri, and the parts of the nai shehem zun v'Yaakov v'Rachel, the nai, so that represents the lower for the cause of the mata really of, and then for the cause of Zer Anpin, and then for the cause of the mata of Yaakov v'Rachel, he says the Chitzonius, the Bria, v'gam hamechitzonius, the Chitzonius Chabad Chagat. So also the outside of what is this Chabad Chagat, which would be the upper 7 spheros. He says, what is the Chabad Chagat? It's all the way to Yasos. It doesn't include Zun. So he said the Yitzira. V'gam mipinimius the Chitzonius Zad al-Sia, and also we're going to reach the Panemius of the Chitzonius of the of the Zion El Yonos, the Sia. So it goes through the Zion El Yonos, he says, well, it goes through all these parts of Sufim of Olam Ayisira. And now he says we're also going to be looking at Panemius, the Chitzonius Zad al Sia. Now we're really close to the Zah of Olam Asila. V'ayidecha b'tefillin shel rosh, l'hafrid hakale mechitzonius nai tzilus. We're going to use the tefillin. He says which tefillin of shel rosh to remove the chitzonius and the nai tzilus. The chitzoni is za the bria. Now, how this all came about and all the background of how we're directing this, I'm going to read it again, this line again, but let's read through to the end. Or let's start again. Now you put on the tefillin shel rosh. What happens? The kavanah that you have here is to separate the kala, the kali, the chitzonius nai datzilus from the outside of the nai datzilus. And the chitzonius za debria. And so we're cleaning up these outside. It is that, if you understand, and we saw in the shir earlier today, that the area called the Chabad is an area which is not attacked by the klipos. The klipos can't go there. The light of the truth of that area is too strong for misinterpretations of reality. So he says, Nahi de Ratzilus, Umechitzonius, the Chitzonius za de Bria, Umepnimius, the Chitzonius za de Yetzira. And I'm saying this wrong, so I apologize. This phrase here is not zaz with an aleph. This phrase means it's Zion El Yonas de Bria. So again, Tefillin Shel Rosh is remove the kali from these places. So he says, Mechitzoni is nai datzilus, which is the lowest part of Atzilus. And Mechitzoni is the Chitzoni is zer anpin de Bria, and also removing one. Now, why he uses a double language, maybe, speculating, see if I can find this answer. Maybe he means that when you move outside of Atzilus, then you're also automatically going to get to the Chitzonius, and then the Chitzonius of that, of the Za de Bria, of the Zer Anpin de Bria. Remember, there is a complete parts of their complete, in the way that RASHASH does this, they're complete partsufim, which include a Za in every parts of. Obepanimi is the Chitzonius, Zer Anpin, the Yetzira. And also that part. Now, how we got over, that's what really threw me, how he got over to, we're doing Chitzonius. And now, though, we're able to go into the Benemius, which means that the Tzalim can come in, of the Zion El Yonos, the Yetzira, the Chayos, the Neshama, and to bring them as a result of that, the Mochim, that represents a light within those Mochim, which is from the Chayos, but the Neshamos. So he's bringing all of that light in. Im HaNaranchi, which is a complete set of light, Shalahem, Kasher Yizboyer called Echad B'Mekom. We're going to explain each one of them in their phases. Now, before we can do that, and we're going to look at this first page, and I think we'll probably wrap it up there. Look what we have here. We have, once again, the concept of the MATBEAH HABRACHA. So if you're listening to this shir, and I don't know who listens to these shiurim, really, I don't have a clue. But we see this MATBEAH HABRACHA all the time. And now that you listen to the shir, you understand that there is something going on called a MATBEAH HABRACHA. I guess it's the template for what happens when you say the word baruch, for example. So let's go over through this first page. We'll try to go through a little faster. We're going to see it over and again in other places in maybe different formats. The bracha zu b'chitzonius the Atzilus. This bracha is referring to the chitzonius of Atzilus. Now I'm thinking just now, where are the kali located? The kali are located in the chitzonius, on the bottom of the chitzonius. Maybe the Chitzonius, but all of the Chitzonium have kali. So he says this concept: Yekavin lahamshech shefa mekeser elyo, the shnei zivugi chagat da'atek, the zivug base, the zivugi the chagat da'atek. Now let me read it again. The shnei zivugi chagat da'atek. So this is the Chagat of Atek, he says. V'lezavik bezivugi the Chagat the Atik, and also to make a yichud in the base zivugim. He's going to show the whole thing, both of them, the Chagat the Atik. So he says there's a concept here of a zivug panimi. This zivug panimi, which is panimi, means that the yud k vav k is on the inside of the shilov. So just for practice purposes, we'll say that's aleph k, yud k, vav k. So he says this is the what? This is the zivug that takes place in the Chabad, the Chagat the Atik. We're always dealing with the Chagat, and I think I said before, and I'm going to try to see if this is right, is that we're dealing with katnas. I don't say this enough. We're dealing with katnas. And when we're dealing with katnas, we're only dealing with the Chagat, because that's what the katnas is. The Chagat doesn't have a Chabad. But as far as the Chagat is concerned, it could have also a Chagat Nai of the Chagat. So let's looking at the Chagat. So where is it coming from? This is all coming from Atik, which is very panimistic. It's really pure light. That's your Kavana. And this is the Zivug Chitzon, where is Yud K, Vav K on the outside. And the Ekya is going to be the Shulav on the inside. And he says this is the Nai, the Chagat. So this, the first light, he says, is from Chabad. The next set of Shilav, it's a Shilav, I'm sorry. And the next one is going to be the Nai of the Chagat. Okay, so Chabad, the Chabad of the Nai of Chagat. Let's go on. Yikavin lahamshech shef and b'shnei zivugi Chagat the Atek. So have this kavanah in mind, that you're going to pour down shefa, b'shnei zivugi Chagat, those two up here, the Atek. The Shnei Zivuki Chagat, the Eric Anpen, and we're going to bring it down into Eric Anpen. He's following the line. So he says that, so that's where it's going to the Rosh of Eric Anpen. So once again, we have a repeat of the lights, but they're in a different place. This is the Zivug Panimi this is the Aleph once again, Aleph K, Yud K, and then in between the letters is going to be a Shilav, a combination of these two things coming together, the Ekya and the Havaya. They make the Chabad part of the Chagat, the Rich. And then you have the outer Shilav. He says Zivul Chitzon, which is a Shilav is here, the way it actually represents your Kavanah for a Yichud, the Nai V'Chagat, or the outside part of the Chagat. So if we read them together, the Chabad, the Nai, the Chagat, okay, this is Eric Anpen. Now the instructions say, now that you had that Kavanah and that you're seeing all of these mochim coming down, so the idea should be that you should pour down the shefa from this zivug panimi, right? This is the zivug panimi. Come back here a little bit. In Atek, zivug panimi, when we're talking about Eric Anpen, becoming lacham shefa bezivug panimi. That's the idea. The Chabad, the Chagat, the Ma'u Ben, the Erich. From the Chabad, this upper part, and the Chagat of the Ma'u Ben, the Erich. That's the Shefa, the Mochim that are coming from Chochmah and Bebina. The Zivug Panimi, the Chabad, the Ma'u Ben, the Chagat, the Abba Ve'iva Ve'yasas. So let's go through this a little bit. Just didn't pop up in my head right away. Where is it going? Well, it's going to ultimately go to the Chagat of Abba Ve'ima and Yasas. Let's read it again. The Zivug, so that all that shefa from those Zivugim up above, and a lot of Kabbalists probably don't use, some Kabbalists don't use the word Zivug at all. So I don't know one way or another, but people do, and you see it written here, but they use the word Yehudim, which is very common. So it says the ziva panimi the Chabad the ma'uben of the panemius that's inside of the Chabad the ma'uben. Which ma'uben? The ma'uben the Chagat. Once again, the middle parts of Abba Ve'ima Ve'yasos. Okay, let's move on, and he shows it. So he said the Shefa de Ma. So this is the Shefa that's coming to the Ma side. And it actually is our old friend, the Mochin of Asma. So these are the male Mochin, apparently, because it says going to the Ma side is the male side. This is Av, Sav, Ma, Uben. So he says, where are they going? They're going Leponim the Malchus. They're going to the face side of the Malchus, the Chochma, the Chug, the Zivug HaElyon, the Chabad, the Chagat, the Abba V'Yasas. Well, you know that I got to break this down because it's too big. So the first question is that it's going to the face side. So my question will be, why is it going to the face side? I guess it's just pure light wrapped in these Mochin. So he said, Leponim the Malchus of the Chochmos of Chug v'Chug. So you have to really break it down. So we're talking about the Malchus. Malchus means there are 10 spheros, and we're really just working on the bottom one. The bottom one is the one that's really transfers the light. It's the Malchus part. So he says the Malchus of what? The Chochmos. Every part of has a Chochma in it. But the Chochmos of the Chug, of the Chochmos of the Mochin, Chochma Ubina, Chesed Gevura. And that those Mochin, again, the Panim, the Malchus, the Chochmos, the Chug, they come about as a result of the Zivug HaElyon, the Chabad, the Chagat, the Abba, the Yisrael Saba. They come as a result of the upper Yichud that takes place in the top part, the parts of Kol Chagat. That Chagat appears in Abba and Yasos. So those Yichudim, keep reading. Abba v'Yasos, they get their Shefa, looks like this. And now we'll move over to the other side. So I could make a quick review of this idea. He says, this is the Shefa of the Ben, pronounced by Ashkenaz Ban. So he says, Shefa the Ben, the Zivug Panimi Hanaz the Erik Anpin. So you had this Yichud up above here in Chagat of Erik Anpin. These represent the Zivugim. Back down a little bit lower. Shefa the Ben, the Zivug Panimi Hanaz the Erik Anpin. Mepanim the Malchios, and it comes from the Panim. Me Panim the Malchios, the Chachmos, the Chug, the Ma'u Ben, the Ben, the Chabad, the Chagat, the Erik Anpin. So we're coming from the Chabad Chagat of Erik Anpin, the Chabad of the Chagat of Erik Anpin. We're coming from the male and female side of the female. All of this is coming from the Chochma Babina of the Chochmos that in Malchus, how many Malchios are each parts of, each sphere is a part of. Each sphere has its own Malchus. That's why it's plural. The Malchios, the Chochmos, the Chub, of all of those Partsufim, of Chochma and Bina, and I was telling you that Partsufim, Chochma Bina, each sphere is a Partsuf. The Malchios, the Chochma, the Chub, the zivug of Benimi Anaza came from the zivug up here that we said before. Now, all we could do is just keep looking at it, and we're going to see it again. It's not the first time, it's the last time it's going to be. Every time we're going to do a mitzvah, we're going to make a bracha. Theoretically, we're going to get into a MATBEAH HABRACHA situation. Now, this was a question that my teacher told me, that Rabbi Memran mentioned, where he says, this should be, and we see it in other places, that this is called Kasa, the gematria of 161. Usually it's Kasa, Kasa. Then this is Kama 143, and then there's another Moach, which is called Kane. Now that's the way it normally is. Just like you had over here on this side, you had Av, Sav, Ma'u, Ben, there 4. Here there's only 2. So he didn't know why, but this is one of the things. It's like maybe the original NAHAR SHALOM, which the RASHASH wrote, was more like notes. And over here was, in other words, he just wrote these letters, but it also meant there were 2 sets like that. And there also was another one missing. Could be that. That's all the 4 mochim, because there are, in fact, 4. Why it's 2? Okay, we don't know. Where is it going to go? Where is all the shefa that's coming out of this yichud up above? It's the panim, the malchios, the chachmos, the chub, the zivug, the elyon, the chabad, the chagat, the ima, the tevuna. So we have to figure out, where is this going? Where is this light that's developed, that's generated as a result of these 2 big yichudim that are taking place up above? And that's what he wants to say. What that all happens when you say the word Baruch. So we come down here, and we're trying to translate this line. All of these mochim on the left side, which is the side of Ben, they're going to the front face of the malchus of all of the chochmos, and the chub apparently has, like we said before, 10 spheros, and each one of them will have a malchus. This is produced from the zivug elyon, the chabad, the chagat, the ima, the tevuna that takes place in the Chabad, the Chagat of ima and tevuna, because now the light has come down to the level of ima, up ima and tevuna. Ima, the tevuna, looks like this. Okay, we're going to go through the MATBEAH HABRACHA with God's help. If we keep going through it, maybe we'll be able to understand the patterns of what's happening. This is Baruch Fleischman, and you've been listening to interpretations of the RASHASH at the Tikvah Elevator Call-Up.